What's up? What's up?
Hey Siri, how do you spell coyote?
Someone wants to know how to spell coyote.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's the little one. I'll put it on mute.
That's so good.
Oh, good.
Hey, Siri's got to be good for something. And
Yeah,
spelling?
when you need to do schoolwork as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
That is handy.
Hey Siri, how do you spell
Oh my God, that's
coyote?
still going on. How to spell coyote. Does anyone know how to spell coyote?
Coyote.
C-O-Y-O-T-E.
Coyote.
O-T-E.
Thanks for that.
Perfect. Who needs Siri when you've got Andrew?
I know, right? Siri, Andrew, we can use you both.
If everyone can chuck themselves on mute, that'd be awesome. Obviously, happy to have a little convo there, Nicole. And just welcome to who we've got jumping on. We've got Althea, Amata, Amy, Nicole, Chrissy, Crystal, Hannah, Kim, Rachel, Tara, Vani, or Vani from last time, Gemma, Susan. Welcome everyone. Drop a little hello in the chat box as always. Where are you tuning in from in Australia or the world? And we'll get stuck in. I'll kick off in a couple of minutes. Just popping yourselves on mute as you come on the call. And we can go from there. Got some new faces here, which is cool. Welcome. Welcome to everyone. Chrissy's in Ballina. Nicole's in Melbourne. Hannah's in Geelong. Althea, I thought it might be you. Good to have you here from Brisbane. So back in 2018, Althea and I did a 7-day training called The Spiral, which is just a really cool modality of growth and development that you can go through. And I was in Brisbane. We connected through the group. Althea swung past where I was, picked me up, and we shared a room for the 7 days and just got along really well. And yeah, it's just good to have you here. Went through the training, faced some shit. Amy is here from Southwest Country Vic. Very nice. Crystal's in Tasmania. Vanny's in Perth. Excellent. Excellent. Everyone's on mute. Cool. Welcome, Amanda. Rock and roll. So, as you know, tonight we're going to be talking about how you can, maintain and or let go of relationships whilst you're growing as a person, and maybe your partner isn't into it, or your friends aren't into personal development, or your family isn't into personal development, or your work colleagues, or whatever it might be. And you've been in this world for a while, or you've entered this world, you're like, oh my God, this stuff's fucking awesome, because it is. And yeah, it can trigger some stuff and bring up some stuff. I'll share, my experience, some of my learnings and lessons, which will be part of the delivery of the content tonight. And then I'll go into some further teachings. What I would love to hear from everyone is, what are you currently going through that's got you here this evening? Why have you joined for this particular topic? What are you wanting to get out of our conversation tonight? What are you struggling with? Is it your partner doesn't get it? Is it your family's giving you grief? Is it you're having friction with your friends? Why can't they be more supportive and understanding? Why can't they be into it? No one ever asks me about this stuff. I'd love to hear from everyone, to just drop a little something into the chat box there. of what's brought you here, and yeah, what are you currently finding challenging or struggling with in the context of growing, being into personal growth and development, and maybe you feel like you've outgrown your friends. There's just not the desire to see them anymore, but you keep hanging around, you keep feeling like you should stay in touch. What have we got? Hannah says, my family thinks I'm having some kind of a breakdown. There you go. Well, a lot of the times we are on this journey. Susan says, have outgrown. Welcome, Susan. Good to see you and have you here. Have outgrown some friendships. Yep. Sam says, friction with a former partner after I started inner work. It's over now, but just here for insight. Cool. Also, I've outgrown many people over the years. Tara says, friends and clients who aren't in alignment with personal values. Nicole says, letting go of people I find negative, but they tend to call me about their struggles. Amanda says, I'm completely disconnected from my parts of my family who are threatened by growth and what I do for a living. I've just gone through a breakup with someone who was also afraid of self-development. Gotcha. Cool. All righty, I'll come back to these. As we go through this tonight, guys, as I share, feel free to pop any comments in the chat box or what you're liking, what you're loving. And we can continue to riff on those things. Kim says, uni friends don't understand the spiritual side, but the issues with COVID have unleashed some pretty yucky sides. So I've distanced myself, but I don't want the aggressive, negative outlook. Yes, fair enough. Family also are fairly negative and I want to move forward. Althea, moving through a new level of detachment from immediate family. It's the biggest yet. Gotcha. Cool. Susan says, negativity, people living in victim mode. So for myself, I've always had a lot of friends. I've always been really good at having friends and having great friendships and deep connections with people. And so I've always felt a very big, strong connection and sense of tribe as well, and I kind of think about it as you're all on the same boat, sailing in the same direction, doing the same shit. And then eventually some people they want to sail off that way. And maybe you're not ready for that person to leave your life, for example. Or you want to jump off the boat and sail off in your direction and do some things. But you also want to be able to sail back and jump on the boat at other times, when you don't want to necessarily cut things off. And as life goes, like I remember when I was younger, just a bit naive, you got a big group of 15, 20 friends and you're like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. And when we're older, we'll all just buy houses in the same area and we'll hang out. We'll still be having beers and barbecues and whatnot. The difference will be just that there's kids there. But life goes in the directions that it does. And you can begin to jump on a different boat, jump on your own boat, go to a different friendship group, drift, whatever it might be. Like my cousins at one point, their main friendship group were their uni friends. I was like, I couldn't understand it because I was friends with some friends since kinder. And I really love that. I love the connection. I love reminiscing about old times, all that type of stuff. Then I started to really get into personal development in 2014 when I started a master practitioner of life coaching and human behavior. And I was 25 and diving into something of that nature at quite a young age, beginning to learn a bunch of all of these different things of how we think, limiting beliefs, emotional states. Perception is projection. You're either at cause for your thinking and for your life and for your results being responsibility, or you're at the effect, which is blame, excuses, and justifications, and victim consciousness. And you begin to become aware of things that you somewhat automatically see. You're just like, oh, I can see the limiting belief in that person right now. I can see the victim consciousness. And I just don't, you're like, I don't agree with that. I'm valuing different things. I don't identify with it anymore. I don't want to be on board, with this conversation. I don't want to be blaming. I don't want to be bitching. I don't want to be making excuses. And at the time, yes, I was 25. I was still living in a share house environment with friends, and very much in a lifestyle which was great. I fucking loved it. It was so awesome. I miss it a lot of times, actually, where I lived in the city and there was just such a strong, so many people were on the same ship, where it's just like, we're out here in the city, let's party, let's have fun, away we go. And so you feel good because you feel connected. We're all seeking to feel deeper and deeper states of love and connection. And so you feel good, so you feel connected. And if you're in a strong tribe, maybe at times you don't really need to look at your shit because, hey, everyone else is fucking as fucked up and dysfunctional as I am, and we're all doing the same shit and it's fun. So whatever, it's okay. It's kind of justified. It feels safe. You don't feel any need to look at yourself or to question things or to think maybe I should be doing more or have more aspirations or desires or whatever it is. And you're just cruising along and having a good time. And so for myself, as I began to do coaching and experience these different ways of thinking, I certainly was beginning to feel disconnected. There was ways of thinking that I was no longer relating to or resonating with. And yeah, I just found this coming up in the friendships and the relationships of, if you're going to disagree, or sometimes a forced agreement where I would go against myself to prioritize the connection to someone else, to maintain that, coming from a place of fear within myself, noticing that my values were changing, and certainly that I didn't want to be going out and drinking and partying and whatnot as much. I wanted to engage in different activities, which of course begins to be obvious, when you start to say no to someone or to a group where you choose a different person over them or a different activity over them, it's going to trigger them as well, and often what can happen is it can be so much easier for other people to make you wrong rather than own their stuff. And especially if you're dealing with people who are quite unaware, they're so in their story that nothing exists outside of it. That as everyone here who's into personal development, I'm sure you can notice how you become aware of the fact that something is a story, and inherently you just know that there's things outside of that, but that's not just your entire world and entire reality. Like, oh, this is a story that I'm running. But for others at times, like, they're just tunnel vision. This is how life is, and it's not that way. Like, it just is because it is. There's no deeper root cause or anything like that. And so, yeah, I certainly experienced some friction in some friendships where I would get frustrated with them. Why can't they be more understanding? One thing that always pissed me off the most was this, who's heard of you are the sum or the total of the 5 friends that you hang out with or whatever, proximity is power. I was like, fuck that, I don't like that. Does that mean I need to be with different friends? Like, are they, and I was running this story of, I need better friends, they're not good enough, they're not going to support me to become the person that I want to be. I'm not going to get where I want to be being friends with them. And so I would certainly project a lot of shit out onto them as well. Relationships are a two-way street. Although I was, feeling unsupported and unsupported at times. And then as a result, kind of like not knowing where I fitted anymore or where I belonged, I was certainly projecting out onto them as well. And what I was doing, it was easier for me to be shitty at them than to face my own stuff. So it happens both ways. What I want everyone on the call to understand here is that if you're struggling with this, it's not them. It's just not them. It's all you. Everything always comes back to self. So I had this, they need to be more understanding, or they need to be more supportive, or whatever it is. I had an emotional neediness and dependency on my friends being a particular way. And I could blame or justify or excuse why I didn't have the results that I want because I didn't have supportive enough friends. No one was keeping me there. It was my choice to stay. And by continuing to choose to stay, I didn't have to look at my own shit. So it's definitely a two-way street. If anyone here is experiencing, yeah, my friends or my family aren't supportive enough, or they're being negative, but you find yourself being drawn back in, or Nicole, people keep calling you up and expressing their troubles. On a deeper level, you love it. It works for you. You get to be valuable. You get to be someone for them, et cetera, et cetera. And it's always still our choice to continue to hold on and to continue to engage. And so what really helped me throughout my journey was looking at, all right, well, what of my own things am I not looking at? You know, my fear of vulnerability, my fear of my ability to make other friendships, to make deeper friendships. You know, these have been my friends my entire life. Then am I going to be in a group where everyone else has been friends their entire life and I'm just that ring-in? I'll never feel that I could lean on them as much as I want to, all of this type of stuff. So it just felt, you know, I had a dependency on my friends for, you know, for connection and support and tribe and belonging. And as we've grown with people so much, we identify with who they are, and we just ingest parts of ourselves within these people, within our friends. And so letting go of them feels like a death. It feels like a letting go of a part of ourself. And we're going to look at attachment a bit more deeply throughout this conversation. So what really changed for me was looking at my dependency on them, my codependency on my friends. And like the victim needs the rescuer just as much as the rescuer needs the victim. So the rescuer still, even though if you look at it from outside looking in, the rescuer's here and the victim's here, the rescuer still has and plays out codependency because they are dependent on the victim for their needs of significance and value to be met through always being able to help out the victim, for example. So that's what we'll get into a bit more, but I just want to read some of these comments first. Amy said, my family can put me down and speak to me horribly. Romantic relationships are never quite right. People with problems that don't want to get help. Some friends don't ever make effort to see me or call me. Gotcha. Crystal, I'm struggling with how to truly let go when I have to see this person. We're all friendly, but when she chooses to be on her terms, she is very hot and cold. Kim Nozak, yep. Chrissy, I've already released the friends, so want to know others are experiencing the same, so be less alone in this process. Being okay with it myself because I've always had many people around, but it was always on their terms, and understand whether it's a cutting that needs to happen or they can still be around. Yeah, good question. Amanda, I've been the scapegoat more than I can count on. Yes. Susan, I'll say to myself, what is here for me? Good question. Crystal, how do you let go when you have to see this person, or is it just a choice I'm making? I'll get to that in a sec. Kim, hard when I feel more like a lone wolf that is a ring-in, never really connected deeply. Gotcha. So what I want to start off with here is that all of our relationships in life are a reflection of our relationship with ourselves. Our external world, our external reality is a reflection of our internal state. To think is to create, and therefore your thoughts, your beliefs, your attitudes, your identities, your values make up your state of being, and your being is what creates and attracts your reality. So as Amy, as tough a pill it might be to swallow, is that the horrible things that have been said to you in your external reality are not by any chance. They're not, random or whatever that might be. They hold truth for you. On some level, your conscious mind might not agree with this, but on some level, you believe the shit that's been said to you. On some level, you believe and feel that you're deserving of that kind of treatment. Otherwise, it simply would not be taking place in your reality. The good thing about this here for you, Amy, and for everyone else, is that what's happening here is life, which you are, is trying to help you to become aware of the parts of yourself that you need to look at and be with and heal, so that you can evolve to a higher level of consciousness and being where you don't experience that reality because you haven't created it. Does that make sense, Amy? So it sucks.
Yeah, just the end bit. I wasn't, the last sentence you said, I wasn't quite sure.
I forget the last sentence. But I'll just go over some of those points again. Is that, and imagine as we're having this conversation right now, those feelings are in your body. It's for everything that gets triggered is for you to become aware of it. Because it's an unconscious reaction that then becomes conscious, which is triggered by an external stimulus. For you to become aware of it, not to push it back down and be like, everyone's so mean to me and blah, 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 but to become aware of how mean you are to yourself and how nasty you are to yourself, so that you can be with that pain and allow it to shift, so that you don't end up continuing to create that experience. So all of our relationships in life are a reflection of our relationship with ourselves. If you're not feeling supported by your friends or family, it's showing you a lack of support within yourself. If you're not feeling seen or acknowledged or heard or understood, it's all showing you where that is lacking within you. And it's important also to understand that, just the other week, for myself, I let go of judgment on liking personal development. I've liked this stuff for over a decade. I've been coaching for 7 years, and I was still like, what is this fucking personal development crap, positive wanker stuff that, whatever, does it even work, all this type of shit. Still there. So you don't want to get caught up into, no, I love it. I wouldn't have a bad word to say about personal development. You might not have a bad conscious word that you're aware of to say about it, or some conscious ones that you're just not willing to admit, that it's likely you've got a fuckload of unconscious judgment around personal development. So you're not even supportive of those parts of yourself. And that's why it's been reflected back to you in your reality. So I want you guys to have a think about what's happening in your external reality, and what is it showing you in the context of friendships and relationships, and what is it showing you about yourself? Because here, I'll talk more about my story. I was moving towards my goals and moving towards my life, which indirectly was, in ways at the time, moving away from some friendships. It wasn't like, I've got to get away from these friendships, away I go, and that's the purpose. Just by the natural consequence of me moving in a particular direction. Like if your friends are going in this direction and you want to go in that direction, by the nature of going in that direction, you're going to be going in a different one than they are. And what I perceived within them was, they're afraid of losing me, or they're afraid of me leaving, which was myself. Even though I was actively choosing to go in a different direction, and I'd be, oh no, I'm not afraid of losing them, I'm going in a different direction. My relationships were showing me that that's what was taking place within myself. I was afraid of heading off in my own direction. And so that's what my relationships were showing me about my relationship with myself. I wasn't supportive or believing in. If you get shitty, that you wish people would believe in you more, believe in yourself more. And they'll come with you for the ride or they won't. What's really important if you're growing or on the personal development journey is a willingness to be alone at times, is a willingness to lose friends. I love saying this is because it's so simple. It's not your sexy shadow work type stuff, but it's so important is that if you're not willing to feel what you need to feel to have what you won't feel it. And you won't get what you want because you're unwilling to go on the journey. If you're unwilling to be alone at times, if you're unwilling to walk the path alone because it's connected and aligned to you and your truth, if you're unwilling to do it, you won't. And you'll constantly rinse and repeat getting shitty at the people in your life and not being supportive enough or not believing in you enough. If only I was around different people, but you're the one who continues to choose to hang out in the environment that you're in. Now, it's difficult to leave. It's difficult to shift and change. It's difficult, especially when it's close friends and family and partners and whatnot. I'm not saying that it's not difficult, but it always is your choice. That's why you want to be looking at yourself in order to move forward and change and grow and take those leaps. Because if you continue to blame them, you'll continue to get, which is just an avoidance of your own shit. You'll continue to compromise yourself. You won't move as fast as you want. You won't go as far as you want. And it'll be easier for you to blame them than to look at the fact that you don't really believe in yourself creating that life. You don't believe in your ability to cultivate new deep friendships, or you've got a deep fear of vulnerability and intimacy with new people, or whatever it might be. No one else is going to like me, so I'll just hang out in these relationships. When you look at that stuff, which is why you're hanging out in the current relationships, when you look at that stuff, you won't need your dysfunctional hanging on anymore, and you'll be able to move forward. And talking about attachment is going to be really cool for this. So, attachment. The Buddha said that attachment is the root of all suffering. And what happens is we attach to people, places, ideas, thoughts, the past, potential future realities. And we immediately grab and hold on. And then what happens is, as soon as you're attached to something, you're already fearful of losing it. So let's say that you're out on a date and you're flowing and there's conversation, there's good banter, there's good flirting, everything's all good. And then this person goes to the bathroom and you're like, oh my God, we're going to be so happy together. Our kids are going to be so beautiful. I can see the cottage on the mountainside. Oh my God, I feel so happy and in love and connected. And you're attached to that idea. You're immediately fearful of losing it. You're immediately fearful of losing something that you don't have, the feeling that the fantasy gives. And because you're fearful of losing it, that person comes back. You're not wanting to say the wrong thing. You're really forcing yourself to do the right thing. You're trying too hard and you just fuck it up. The chemistry's gone, the flow's gone, the flirtatiousness is gone, and you're just like, shit. You either become controlling or aggressive or needy and dependent. Because the intention behind attachment is prevention of loss. But when you become controlling or aggressive or needy and desperate, what's that going to end up doing? Is it going to pull the thing in, or is it going to push it away? It's going to push it away. So this is the irony that whenever we're coming from fear, we're doing ourselves a disservice. Because if I'm attached in a relationship, which is going to happen, okay, so I always get asked, is there such thing as a healthy attachment? Well, on one answer, no, all attachment leads to suffering and suffering is not healthy. And another answer, yeah, you can have attachment in relationships that still has a very wonderful, beautiful relationships. We're human beings at the end of the day. So the question about like, do you need to cut things off, is the way that I went about things was releasing my attachment, my emotional neediness to my future looking the way that I wanted it to, or my friendships sticking around. I also had a mentor one time say, he's like, you need to be okay with them hating you. The more that you be of yourself, the more that you really love personal development and whatnot, you need to be okay with them rejecting you or them hating you. And that was powerful. But when I realized that I don't think a cut off is necessary in a, I've cut them off, fuck them, like a very fear-based, still attached type way. What I think is really valuable is understanding that behind all attachment is an emotional neediness. So I want you to have a think about the people in your life that are giving you grief, but you keep going back to, or you keep allowing them back in, or whatever it is that you compromise yourself for, that you dim your light for. I would love for you guys to have a think about what is you need them for? What do you need them for? You might need them for connection. If you've got a lot of victim-y people that keep coming in, you might need them to feel better about yourself, which happens. If you're hanging out with a bunch of people who just quite can't get it together, but you've got it together up here, and maybe there's people up here, you're like, oh, I don't feel so shit because I hang out with a bunch of losers, you know? And this is just a great level of honesty to have with yourself. I'd love for you guys to drop into the chat box. What do you need these people for? And also know that if you're looking for someone's acceptance or approval, it's all about internal acceptance and approval. And to also ask yourself, like, what are you afraid of with letting go of them? You might judge yourself as an asshole for leaving. I had this fear of like, I did have a fear of, yeah, what if I can't come back? What if I go my way and then I can't come back? And it is severed. I had a fear of like, yeah, ties being cut, things being severed, and I couldn't go back. And then the crew collectively thinking, fuck, Pierce is a wanker. And them not wanting a bar of me. Kim, if they go, I have no friends. I have a lot of people I know, but no friends that I can hang out with. Not that I can, as they're all in Melbourne, so I live up here. Gotcha. Nicole, need to feel needed. Yep, I can help them maybe. Gotcha. So it gives you a sense of significance. You can be valuable to them. You feel needed. Feel like you can contribute. So without them, think about what are you left with? What's in the body and what are you left with? Amanda, I have no problem walking away if the relationship means abandoning me, but I still have this endless hope they will get it. I have no problem walking away if the relationship means abandoning me, as in you abandoning yourself. Gotcha. But I still have this endless hope they will get it.
Does that make sense? Probably easier if I talk.
Yeah, go for it. Because at the moment I'm thinking you're way too comfortable with abandoning yourself.
I had been, and then I learned that, and then I had to step away, like from family and things like that, where it was quite toxic. And
Yes.
so I feel like I've come back into it. I have like a really amazing soul family that are
Yep.
chosen and incredible, and then other relationships that are, it's like you're going to choose you or you're going to choose me. And then when I choose me, then it's really dysfunctional, and I end up sort of going into, I just want them to get, I want us all to go on this path.
Yes.
And I have this endless hope, but it aches. Like, it's really like, even with my family, I have to surrender to, they may never get it. That might not be their path this time, but
Yes.
there's still a part of me that yearns for it.
So
That
when
we'll
you
all get there.
when you choose you, it's
Mhm.
dysfunctional. How so?
In certain relationships, well, that's where the scapegoating happens, or the attacks happen, or that sort of thing. And I have to put really hard boundaries in place, and it's incredible. And then I get blamed for all of it. There's no self-responsibility from the other side. And those relationships, I grew up in that, and then, but we were very, very close. And then I woke up and could see it from a different lens. So I was the bad guy
Mhm.
that threw up all the dysfunction. And then I've had relationships, quick ones, like this last one was a couple of months, and it was all awesome and amazing, and there was all the reverence and respect. And then when they start to see that they've got to do work, or that shit's going to surface, it just becomes a turn really quickly.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah, yeah.
And then
yeah.
then I have to be, you're outside the gate. Like, now it's actually really toxic. Like, you're going to try and attack me because you don't want to face yourself, or
Mhm.
yeah. That,
Yeah. What do you think these are showing you about yourself and your relationship with yourself?
definitely definitely the part where I'm committed to a certain point, and then wobble. It's probably exactly the same thing, where
Yeah.
where I doubt myself, where it gets to a certain place. And it's funny, this last relationship that I'm in, I actually, now, I did think he was like my soulmate, because he's come in and out of my life over 30 years 3 times.
Mhm.
And this last one was like, really, we've had a big growth journey over all those years, but now I see him as like my self-love measuring stick, because I can see how I've grown over the years. He's quite the same as he always was,
Yeah.
but it tests me, because every time it comes with that equation of like, are you going to abandon you? And it's hard. I find it hard when I'm pushed to that point to choose me. I feel bad. I feel guilty. I feel like I know it's right, but there's still that part. And then also has this secret hope that they're going to get it and we'll be able to meet in utopia.
Yes. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, I know that for sure. I would say get it is get me, which would point you towards understanding yourself and getting yourself. Really, and it's I just did this with a client. It's such a valuable practice to first off admit that we don't fully get or approve of ourselves. And secondly, a way in which you can understand yourself is to have a conversation with yourself and just let yourself speak and be like, yeah, I get it. It's like, I get it. I get that. You might say, I just feel so fucking lonely at times. I wish they would understand. And then to yourself, you say, I totally get that. I would feel the same way. I would feel the same way too. And then
I like that.
Yeah, then that part of you is heard.
Yeah.
And to just be like, yeah, I understand. It'd be nice if once they asked, how's the internal world going? It's like, oh yes, thank you. Finally, someone gets me.
Yeah.
And this is just a conversation with self. And so that's what I would suggest, that get it is actually get me. You just want them to get you. There's a part that just feels so unseen or unheard, or there's no, you don't get to really share your excitement with them. So your excitement feels so denied, or your passion or whatever. And it's a part of you that is not feeling seen, heard, or understood. So that's what your practice is.
Yeah. I feel like we don't get to
listening.
share love. I feel like it's like fear, or it's and I really want that loving exchange. And I have that in such a big component. It's like so extreme. I feel like in one reality, I have such a flowing, loving life, and then there's these pockets over here that get a lot of my energy, which is probably part of the lesson as well, is to turn away from that, not trying to shift that or to so much,
Yeah.
you know, like it.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
also,
I did.
also have a think. You've probably got something around being more balanced, that you prefer on some level the extremes. There's an element of control there for you, that you get to, that you feel safer in just knowing, because it's familiar too. Versus, you know, you can still run the story of no one understands me or whatever, and I'm either this side or I'm that side. Which, you know, if balance and harmony isn't in your reality, it means you're not choosing it because you don't actually want it. So I would suggest you have a look around that as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hannah says a sense of security. So be with the insecurity of them not being there. Crystal says, feeling alone. She was someone I was very honest with, and I'd never been that honest to anyone. So I'm going to come up, Crystal, to your question earlier. How do you let go when you have to see this person? Is Crystal still here? Yes. So you let go in the same way. You give yourself permission that you're like, it doesn't differ because you have to see them. You don't have to, show them any particular way that you're still into them, that you're still friends, that you're still whatever. It would suggest that you've got a greater fear of letting go than you do of holding on. And that when you see this person, you said something else of, they can be nice when they want to, is that you can just drift and you can be amicable, or you can straight up say to them, whether you have to see them or not, is, hey, I'd prefer that we don't talk when we see each other. Or you'd say, look, I'm happy to just be amicable and acknowledge, but I don't want to get into conversation. You're allowed to do that, Crystal, to communicate that. But what's going on is that you're not giving yourself the permission to say, hey, I'm not okay with just being friendly when it's on your terms. But you're still choosing that relationship. On some level, you don't feel like you're good enough for anything else, or that that's what you are good enough for. So you've come to this conclusion or this place that I'm struggling to let go. I don't know how to truly let go. Well, there's no holding on, letting go, and then truly letting go, like the diamond service of letting go. You know, it's not like the VIP of letting go. Letting go is letting go. There's not a letting go version and a truly letting go version. Letting go is letting go. And I feel for you, what is here is it's about you deciding your boundaries, your standards, what you will and will not tolerate, and communicating to this person what your desires, being vulnerable with it. Maybe it's like, hey, I would like to be friends. However, I find that, you know, there's times we're friendly and there's times that we're not. It seems to be that you're very hot and cold, and you're only ever nice to me, or we're only ever friends on your terms. When you're friendly, I enjoy your company and I would love more of that, but I'm not available for this kind of relationship. Currently, you are available for it, and continue to choose it. So you can say, I'm not available for this kind of relationship, and just communicate where you're at, Crystal. Be willing to share and honestly communicate where you're at. Be willing to let go. Be willing to be without friends for a while. Face any fear of, if there's a fear of her, then talking shit and turning people against you, whatever. Be open to the potential of those things happening. If you're not, you'll continue to choose this. You'll continue to just rinse and repeat in that. What have we got here? Kim says, is that due to the belief systems we started when growing up with interactions with family and close contacts? Yeah, there is just a tight bonds, where's Kim, with family. Shelley, letting go of engaging in relationships that no longer serve where I'm personally at and walk for a while feeling alone. I realized the great people I did have around me stepped forward in those relationships and now the quality I want. Awesome. And some of the older friends have reconnected. Yes. Best is I have a better relationship with myself that reflects my friendship with myself. Beautiful. So some things that will help is being aware of any self-judgment of having moved on. You know, I was having a conversation with a mate the other day and he's like, I just feel like I've moved on. I feel like what he said was, I don't feel like I'm outgrown them. So I said, well, that's exactly how you feel. And that's okay. You're allowed to feel that way. If part of you feels that you have become better than your friends, allow yourself to feel that way. It might be a bit uncomfortable for you to acknowledge that. Oh no, I wouldn't say better, but I've just outgrown. That feeling could be what feels most true for you. And that's okay. But if that feeling's there and you're not okay with it, then you won't want to move on because you'll be judgmental of thinking that you're better than people. So you'll continue to re-engage in the same friendships. So give yourself permission. You're allowed to move on from friendships. You're allowed to let go. You're allowed to outgrow. You're allowed to have new boundaries. You're allowed to have new standards. You're allowed to put yourself first. You're allowed to see other people. You're allowed to do other activities. You're allowed to say no just because you don't want to do something. And there'll be an element of people pleasing playing out with everyone. That by saying yes to others, you're pleasing them so that you can stay connected to them. So what you want to become aware of is what are the parts of yourself that you're disconnected from. You might be disconnected from your own sense of value, disconnected from your own sense of attractiveness, disconnected from your own sense of fun, disconnected from your own, from your belief in your ability to create new friendships, disconnected from a willingness to be vulnerable, disconnected from a belief in self or support of yourself. Crystal, I tried to organize to talk to her, but she wasn't interested in communicating. Yep, need to set clear boundaries. Great, so you can send her an email, send her a text, send her a letter. Or, you know, just decide what you are and are not available for. Amy says, for emotional support, oh yeah, why we need people. For emotional support, help when things go wrong, because I haven't got anyone else to help if I need to move, because I love them and need them. Gotcha. So what's needed here, what this conversation has been doing is it's been bringing up a lot of stuff that needs to be looked at, that needs to be felt. And for some of you on the call last week, I ran a big old masterclass on letting go, surrender, and self-healing. That recording is available for $47 for anyone who wants to get it. Let me know, and I can get a recording to you. Because there's all these insights, but then there does come the question of, well, how does that get done? And that's what that shares. I was going to read Sam's comment here. I've never really been one with a big circle of friends, more like a lone wolf, yet those I let get close, I often have a high tolerance for them, even if they act in ways I don't appreciate. It takes a lot, but once they cross a certain line, I'm done. I've cut loose many people because of this. I feel that many people try to challenge me or put me down because I have high confidence. Gotcha. So what's really valuable is connecting to your own sense of value within yourself. And things of value attract. If you don't feel that valuable, then you will tolerate more. But if you do feel valuable, then you'll have belief of, yeah, I can attract more friendships. If you're willing to be vulnerable, if you're willing to be seen, if you're willing to be seen as insecure, all these types of things that take place in friendships and relationships, you'll be more open to those coming into come into your life. But if you're not, you'll continue to stick with the same because it's familiar. And although familiarity can carry pain and suffering, there's elements of safety, control, and comfort, and better the devil you know than the devil you don't. So lastly, I just want to talk very quickly on boundaries and standards. So you can ask, what is a boundary? I'll give an example. Oh, so I said to Nicole the other day, actually. So Nicole came through the 10-day Infinite Calm program, and I'm happy to answer a couple of questions here and there. And then naturally, through no fault of her own, wasn't aware of my boundary, and it's happened with many other people as well. Can come in and just ask questions straight into Messenger, and that's cool. That's fair enough. You've got a question, and I'm happy to answer a few, and then I'll share the boundary. And the way that I just like for things to be, whether it's right or wrong or what other people think about it, doesn't fucking matter because it's my boundary, is I just said, hey, appreciate the question. I will answer it for you. Just for future reference, the way that I like to be engaged with is if you check in and ask permission, if you can ask me a coaching question in the context of my profession, that other people pay me to be able to ask me questions. And so I'll just check in for myself. I'm happy to answer a question, happy to answer another one, happy to answer another one. And then it's like, all right, now, if you want to keep asking me questions, you're going to have to pay for it. And so and I communicated that boundary. There was no shittiness because Nicole didn't know. And I was available and open initially, and I was fine with it. And then because there was a healthy communication, Nicole said, thank you for expressing that. I appreciate it. And I said, thanks. I appreciate you appreciating it. Just to have that open conversation. Whereas, because otherwise I can just get questions, or it can just be a big emotional dump, and I'm not up for that. I'm not available for that. And I value myself. If Nicole was then shitty at me and blah, 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 I'd be like, all right, whatever, like, that's not my problem. My life will move on. But if I was just like, oh, in a real scarce place, and I need to upsell her into the next program, or oh fuck, I won't be able to attract any more leads or whatever, and scarce, then I will just allow my boundaries to be crossed, and I won't communicate them for fear of losing, for fear of loss, because I would have been attached. So boundaries, when you're attached, will be a bit forceful and have a negative impact and influence. Nicole, just if you mind taking yourself off mute, what was your experience of me communicating the boundary in the way that I did? How did it feel for you?
It actually made me feel good, because it then made me question, where are my boundaries? So that actually triggered me to thinking, oh, he's got boundaries. So where are my boundaries? So that sort of switched on something inside my head going, okay, so where are my boundaries? And then it started making me think, what are they?
Yes.
Yeah. So I thought maybe that happened for a reason, because it just gave me a really good insight of trying to understand my own boundaries. And yeah, I don't know what it was. It was really odd. It was like a little light switch that just went on. And that's why I said to you, thank you. I really appreciate that, because I feel like maybe that was meant to happen to teach me a lesson.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, I appreciate that. I love honesty. So yeah.
Yeah. And so thank you, Nicole. So this is what you guys can do with your friends as well. If you've got people who just come in and they just dump on you immediately, you can be like, you can set the same thing. And they might not like it, but fuck, that's not your problem. But if you then cater to them, it's because you're disconnected from yourself and your own sense of value, and you're prioritizing your connection to them over your connection to yourself. And maybe, oh, I don't want to feel like an asshole, I don't want to feel like a whatever. Well, if you're unwilling to feel those ways you want, and you'll continue to compromise yourself, you can say to a friend, and I've said it to friends before, I'm like, hey man, I'm not available for this right now. I would love to have this conversation with you. I'll get back to you in a couple of days. And mate was just like, love that. I said, yeah, sweet. You know, I've said it with parents before. So that's a boundary, and you can set whatever boundary that you want, however you want to be engaged with. You know, someone was asked a bunch of questions. So someone sent me through an email that had a bunch of questions in a 5-minute audio. I listened to a little bit of the audio and got a vibe for the questions, and I was like, hey, if you want access to the recording from last week, you can. It's $47. And they said, oh, so you're unable to answer my questions, or you're not going to help me, or whatever. And I'm like, this is the boundary. This is where it's at. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's okay. It's not my problem. And now I think they've ended up buying it, actually. And so they handled it well. They responded well. And so because the conversation was led from a non-attached place, and just a clear communication of the boundary, it ended up, you're just increasing your chances of it being received well. And then the next thing, lastly, I'll share is like what a standard is, so you can get a bit of a check-in of what are your new standards that you can operate by. So, for example, this is a standard here, is I'm not available for people being victimy unless they're having an event and I know they're going to take responsibility for it afterwards. If someone's just straight up being a victim and they're just fully going to whinge and bitch and truly believe, like, let's say, for example, someone's got the vaccine and they're like, well, I had to get it because I didn't have a choice, did I? And they might say, well, I've got kids and a mortgage, so it's not really a choice, is it? It's still a choice. It's still a choice. It's a difficult one. It's one that can carry some consequences and some hardships, but at the end of the day, it's still a choice. If someone was fully stuck into, no, it's not, and I'm not open to seeing it any other way, but hey, I'd still like to vent to you, then not for me. No thanks. Because my standard is, you've got to take responsibility for your stuff. If you're going to be a client of mine, if you're going to be a close friend of mine or whatever, you've got to take responsibility for your stuff. And if you're just here to bitch and whinge and vent and take no responsibility, then I can just, hey, I'm not open. I'm not up for that. If you're just doing it and I know the person that you are and you're going to take responsibility for it on the back end, I'll fucking chime in with you. So that's a standard in my life, is responsibility. And even just having an understanding of what these are, I think really helps. At times you can hear, oh, you need to have higher standards. And you're just like, okay, cool, thanks. And you walk away, you're like, what is a standard? I wouldn't even know what a high standard looks like because I don't even know what a fucking standard is. Or same with boundaries or whatever it is. So I think those two examples are pretty good at illustrating what I'm talking about there. So any final questions or comments before we wrap it up? I'm just going to drop into the chat box my personal Facebook page. For anyone, oh, sorry, I'm just stretching out my back. For anyone who wants to grab the Surrender, Self-Healing, Letting Go masterclass from last week, it's $47. Just send me a message at my personal page. And everything that has been illuminated tonight in this conversation that comes up, the stuff that you need to feel the feels and go over, that class from last week will guide you through it over, I think, an hour and 15 minutes. What about needs and neediness? Is neediness expecting others to fulfill them? Yeah, so neediness, let's say like you've got there's a neediness and a desperation behind. So I got a buddy who surfs, and at times I know that he's been stressed about getting waves or whatever and blah, 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 and stressed out in the surf and stressed about getting down there and the conditions and all this type of stuff. So there's an emotional neediness and dependency on him, even on the activity of surfing, that maybe, let's say, if he gets a good surf in once every 3 weeks, it's like, oh, I've had a good surf. I can face the next 3 weeks. But then it starts to come into the 4th week and it's a bit like, ooh, a bit jittery and a bit judgmental, and oh, I haven't had a good surf in a while, and that's my thing, that's what I need. And there's an emotional dependency to A, feel calm, and to B, not feel insecure by getting a good surf in every 3 weeks. So if there's an emotional dependency, Amanda, for your tribe to get it, then there's a feeling that's already in your body of potentially feeling so alone, so isolated, so misunderstood, so not there at the heaven when everyone arrives together and we all get it, that there's a dependency on your fantasy. You're attached to the hope, and the hope distracts you from the pain. So you're attached to the hope that one day they might get it, but I'm afraid that if I give up on them, on the hope of them getting it, then you're left to face what's in the body. So there's an emotional neediness and dependency on them getting it, which is on them getting you, so you don't have to feel the pain of how lonely, isolated, unsupported, misunderstood you feel. Does that help to answer your question? Cool. Tara, is the masterclass added content that's not in Infinite Calm program? It is added content. You do know it all. I'll give it to you, Tara, as a part of our agreement that we're in. It was really good though. The structure of it was great, and the flow of it was great. So I'll get a copy to you. Cool. All right, guys. I might see you all Tuesday next week. Let's see if I think of another one to come up with. Yeah, if anyone wants a copy of the masterclass, $47, fucking valuable, was awesome to go through. Send me a message on my personal Facebook and I'll get it to you. Take care.